First to Last Stand, then Django Unchained. What better way to keep on with this streak of manly movies than to talk about the romance movie between a girl and a zombie? Yep. Warm Bodies. Okay, let me start out saying I knew I was going to hate this movie. I just knew it. I'm not going to get into details, but let's just say I went with different people. I did not, of my own free will, go to see Warm Bodies. I told myself, yeah, I guess I'll just sit through this. And, I mean, it was better than staying at home. Any movie to me is better than just sitting at home doing nothing. So I was just going to go and just have an okay time, but I did not expect to like the movie. Now, with that being said, did I like the movie? Yeah, I knew from about 2 minutes in that this was going to be an interesting movie, simply by the way the zombies were acting. Okay, yeah, quick spoiler alert. There are going to be spoilers, so if you don't want to hear them, then back away now. But you probably do, so I'm going to continue on with the review. Alright. About 5 minutes in, or the first 5 minutes or so, it's being narrated by a zombie that's later called R. He's in a zombie physical state, but he thinks like a normal human. And it makes for some funny lines. Again, it wasn't flat out hilarity or anything like that, but it was very entertaining, and it really made this movie feel creative and fresh, which it was. I mean, maybe they've made other movies like this that I've never seen, but this is definitely an interesting angle compared to everything else that's in this sort of genre that's just trying to copy Twilight. This does something different. It's still kind of a Twilight copy, but it's creative, and I think it beats Twilight by a mile. So basically, the general story is this. Zombies are... Alright, basically they're a group of survivors that are behind this wall that they kind of built to keep the zombies out. And zombies occupy the rest of this large city, and I imagine most of the world. But especially in an airport, that's where the main zombies you see on the screen R lives, is on a plane in the airport. And basically, while survivors are out one day for supplies, R and his zombie friends jump all the survivors, and R actually kills the main girl, who turns out to be his romantic friend, I guess. He kills her boyfriend, and I'm getting myself confused talking about this. And if you haven't seen the movie, it may be confusing too, but it's not when you actually watch it. And by eating her boyfriend's brains, he learns, about this girl that he's fallen in love with, and he basically... when he sees her, this corny music's played, and, he kind of makes that face he's making right now. He's in love. You can tell. And he saves her from being killed, and he takes her to an airport. Well, the airport he lives, and takes her onto his plane, and he leaves her there, and he says, it's not safe to go out. And that's one of the things that caught me. It's like, well, I'm going to talk about the airs later on. But, anyway. So, yeah, and basically while they're on the plane... They, it's kind of typical after that. They build a relationship and a bond, and she grows to care for him. But then there's this big plot twist where the zombies are getting better. They're turning human again. Their heart's beating. They're going to be mortals once more. Yeah. I thought it was an interesting concept. I'm not entirely sure. I guess if I can buy zombies, I can buy that. I don't really consider that a flaw, but there are some flaws in the movie, and we're going to talk about those right now. Alright, there are two major flaws that really caught my mind. And, usually if I think about it later and it didn't affect the story and I didn't realize it while watching the movie, I usually would not count it against the movie unless it's something major that I just missed. But these are two things that I caught during the movie that bothered me, and I'm going to have to deduct points from this movie for being this way. Basically, number one, he walks her into the airport and onto the airplane of his. She asks to leave. He says, in his own little way, it's not safe. How is it not safe? You walked her onto the plane before. You can walk her off. I understand that there's a big risk, but obviously you're willing to take the risk to get her onto your plane. Why don't you do it to get her off? I know he said some bullcrap like, what, he wanted to keep her on the plane for a few more days, but I don't know. That's kind of a dumb excuse, I think, because she should think the same thing, because they both walked on just fine, Yeah, also, mind you, it's been almost a month now since I saw it, so they may have addressed it, but they didn't address it well enough to satisfy me. Because I remember him, he says, I need, to himself, I need to keep her on this plane, as long as possible. It's not safe. That's stupid. How would she buy that? She walked on with him. She knows that she can get back out. And that's the second major flaw, is this girl. She is not, to me, she is not the most likable character. She's not, I don't hate her. There are some female leads like Bella who I just hate. And I do like this girl on here. I forget her name now overall. But she does stupid things. Stupid things. Alright, the biggest one, though, she keeps trying to escape. I know running from the zombies sounds stupid, but let me emphasize a little bit. Just off the top of my head, there are 2 and maybe 3 times where while they're on the plane, she gets out on her own. And guess what happens every single time? She gets overrun by zombies, and he has to come out and save her. That is stupid. You are stupid. My God, that is... I'm having a little mini rage over here, but you are safe with this guy. And mind you, the first escape she tries is after, the audience is sure that she's safe with him. But she tries it, and then I know she tries it one more time again, and she may try it more. Just stay with that zombie and have him get you out. As long as you're with him, you're not going to get hurt. Stop risking your life. If she did it once, I'd understand, but she does it so many times. But there is one thing that really, really brings this film down. They do it. A film cliche that I may hate more than anything. I'm not sure if it's my most hated, but it's one of them. I know almost all romantic films, especially romantic comedies, have this, but I hate it. It does not have to be in this movie, or any movie, to be honest. You know what it is. It's the misunderstanding. Alright? Basically, I already told you what happened. So she finds out that he killed her boyfriend, and she's like, I suspected it all along. Okay, and I thought to myself, wow, you're dealing with this really well, movie. I could see the misunderstanding and the split up of 10 minutes movie time, just like, 2 hours away. I could see it was going to happen, but then she acted like it was okay overall. And I was like, smart movie. But no, in the morning, she's gone again. And he told her at night, and they went to sleep. And then in the morning, she's gone. And it's like, what? And mind you, it wasn't a traditional one. Usually they have this argument, and she leaves or he leaves one. That didn't necessarily happen, but think about it. They had, not really an argument, but it was something that was real bad about the zombie. Right? Right. And then for the third, maybe the fourth time, she just ditches him. She acts like she likes this guy so much, only to stab him in the back. And I understand she wants to get back to her people. That's only human, and I'd be on her side. I'd be wanting to leave too. But he is your safe card. You're safe with this guy. Why don't you just stay with this one guy? I mean, she makes it back okay, but, that's stupid, And this makes me question her intelligence. Now, and it also makes me question... I mean, she acts like she likes him so much, but she's always ditching him. I know he's a zombie. I know she's a human. And I actually think that's okay. But they need to have a better reason for it other than her just doing it out of nowhere and then acting like she loves him so much, in another instant. But like I was saying, I mean, again, her trying to leave plus that cliche. And again, I know it was not the traditional version, but they had a small, minor dispute, and she's gone. And they're separated for, 10 to 15 minutes movie time. And then he comes back, and then they make up, and then the climax of the movie happens. All the time, that's how it happens. God! I'm sorry. It doesn't bother me as much as I guess I'm making out. But, no, actually, it does. This is one of those times where it really does bother me that much. Not necessarily in this movie, but that cliche in general. I hate it so much. It's so annoying. However, I still think this film is worth seeing despite its shortcomings. Again, when he talks to himself, the zombie does, it is hilarious. Well, yeah, I don't think it's drop dead, rolling around the floor laughing funny, but I laughed quite a few times in this movie at some of the stuff he said. And there were a couple lines he said that were hilarious. So, I recommend anyone who wants to see it. It is not Twilight with zombies. I want to emphasize that. It is a much better film than Twilight. And it does have some shortcomings, like I said, but it's still worth seeing. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10.